Hello, everybody. You are on Becoming Quantum Conscious, and my name is Bart Sharp, and you are on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And you're also on Roku, X, Facebook, YouTube, and on the UPRN Talk Radio website all around the world. We're getting around everywhere, and we're just getting more and more stories up. And I just love really good stories. And today is a good story, healing the trauma in the world. I mean, and you kind of go, well, how the heck do you do that part? There's a lot of ways to get it, but when I met these two at a party on Halloween night, we were having a Diwali party, and it was really funny. This is in Austin, Texas, and there's one part of the party where everybody was doing kind of wild, adventurous stuff and dancing and jumping in a tub and doing activities. And then there's this other room, which I was assigned because I was one of the so-called healers, that I met Jake and Whitney. And I go, my God, they are the most calm people I ever met. There was calmness emanating out of them. And, I know calm because I've done tons and tons of psychological, energetic work for 20 years, and I know that path of consciousness. But here they were, and was so calm. So I go, after asking them, who's your mama and who's your daddy, then I go, how did you get so calm? And Jake, Whitney, how did y'all get so calm?
It's a path. It's a path of awakening to who I am behind the traumas, behind the conditioning, beyond anything that's my life's work. And I can say that Whitney is on a similar path of knowing who we really are beyond the personality.
Yes, and there's also a path of healing the nervous system and healing the traumas that are stored in our nervous systems from childhood and even before conception through the ancestral line. And it's healing those traumas and teaching the nervous system to be able to regulate itself that brings that brings us as humans into a state of not just calm but centered and present.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one level, and what we're talking about is the triple vagal method is one of the many tools to do. And it was just interesting being there tonight because there's a couple people that were practicing these tools and very dedicated and sincerely in that practice. When you're sincerely into a practice, it basically means you do it all the time and you work with people, and there's a dedication to that type of consciousness. And that's what I felt from these two, was that type of intensity. And when you think intensity, you think of maybe stress or hard work. Now, there's probably work because you're concentrating, but this is kind of the opposite, because triple vagal method, maybe we ought to start with, what is the vagal nerve? Because that's what you're addressing.
Yes.
Yeah, the vagus nerve is it's a cranial nerve, and it actually regulates the autonomic nervous system. So it's the part of our nervous systems that is automatic. that we don't control. It's not like a motor movement of like something that we're doing intentionally out of choice, but the autonomic nervous system is like our heart rate and our digestive function and our the way we feel and our breathing patterns. It's the part of our nervous systems that's there to protect us, and it's automatically happening, and it happens the way that it happens until we learn how to reprogram it.
And the vagus nerve is one big long nerve that's connected to the entire nervous system. Am I getting that correct?
It is. I think it's the longest nerve in the body, and it innervates many different parts of the body, all of our organs, and uh, it has many functions as well.
Yeah, yeah. When you're talking about that, I keep thinking that the parasympathetic nervous system, which is,
Yes.
people say, well, that's the nervous system that controls involuntary systems and our sleep. But if you're a meditator or you're a highly evolved person, you are functioning in the parasympathetic while you are doing and all the things that everybody else does that are functioning in the other nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
Yes. So what you're speaking about is the dominant state of the nervous system. Could be parasympathetic or sympathetic. And the parasympathetic circuit of the autonomic nervous system is the rest and digest, the calm and relaxed, the sleeping, the digesting of the food, and the sympathetic circuit of the autonomic nervous system is the fight or flight. Like, we don't necessarily control when our body goes into fight or flight. It's often coming from fear or protection, and our body's going fast and it's trying to run away or fight something off. And then there's actually another circuitry of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is called dorsal. And that is the shutdown stage. So when someone's been in sympathetic for a really long time, the next phase of the nervous system is shutdown. So it stops everything and it prepares to die. And a lot of people actually live from that state. And they might appear like there's nothing going on, like they're really calm or that everything's fine, but really they're very numb.
So they're kind of on that edge between highly traumatized sympathetic and about to go into the dorsal, and they're just, it's kind of
Yes.
like a
Yeah.
dancing with the devil, or dancing with insanity, or dancing with trauma.
A lot of illness happens as the body in that stage, as people have been stressed, chronically stressed for many, many years, and then they start to shut down.
Yeah.
And a lot of people live in that state and don't know why they don't feel good.
Do you think they can get addicted to something like that?
Get addicted to being in that state.
Yeah. Like
I think
think
it
it's
can be a habit, a
habit.
pattern.
Yeah. And I think they get addicted to the numbing that tries to they try to regulate themselves or try to feel better because they're in that state all the time. So that's why there's this chronic epidemic of numbing that we see in modern culture, which is, I think, what people get addicted to because they don't know how to get out of these patterns, which is staying in these sympathetic and dorsal states.
Yeah. So maybe a typical example would be somebody that would be riding a motorcycle on cross country and driving at a very extreme pace. And they make one mistake, they could go into a crash, which could injure or kill them. And that super prompts the sympathetic and the adrenal systems. And then they go and have a big steak and 6 beers or something to calm their body down, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like
I would
that.
say it's likely when they're on that motorcycle, they're in the sympathetic state and they're driving their sympathetic nervous system, and then yeah, going into a steakhouse and eating a lot to slow down the nervous system and
Yeah.
to depress the nervous system to come out of the sympathetic.
Well, that's the numbing. What helps me understand the dorsal is a natural response that we see in nature, which is, for instance, certain animals, when they are so shocked and they think that they're going to die, they go into this place of, I'm going to pretend that I'm dead already. So this animal doesn't attack me and already thinks I'm dead. And that's what a lot of depression is, or when people have been in sympathetic for a long time, they don't know how to handle it, get out of it. So they go into these places where, like, a lot of depression and these states of dorsal is actually the nervous system saying it's preparing itself for death.
What a
Yeah.
cherry topic.
Yeah.
But it's very true that what a lot of people live by is that high energy, high anesthetizing. And then after you do all of that and the steak and the beer, you go home and watch TV for 3 hours just to kind of numb yourself to another energetic level. And those of us who are not into that, um, we look at that and go, is that really fun? You know, some people would think that's the life. However, there's another life out there.
Right.
Yeah, that is calm, that is fulfilling, that is more quantum conscious. Because when you calm this nervous system down, something cool happens.
Yeah, you're able to access your true self or your inner states. There's truth, like what you're meant to do in this world is able to come out because your nervous system is regulated. It's like what people talk about as flow state is a common word, but it's just everything can come out from a regulated nervous system. And when there's so much that's bogged down in your nervous system, you're not able to access those states. And that's why I love doing this work, because I talk about accessing what's beyond my conditioning. Well, it's hard to access those states when I have all these conditionings or things, and all that stuff is held in the body, which is what we do with the triple vagal method. I can directly work with somebody's body and start working with these stories that have been held for 20, 30, 40 years and start to untangle them so somebody has access to freedom.
So, wait a
Yeah.
minute, I want to ask you a question on that because it's a
Yeah.
good topic. When you're starting to work with people, you're telling me that you are interfacing with past memories of traumatic experiences and releasing those things.
Well, helping you to release it. Helping you to release it, to change it. I'm part of the process, but it's you that's releasing it, or the client.
Hmm.
I'm just there to help guide you along the way and to hold space for it.
But you're also massaging and touching these
Right.
nerves and concentrating and bringing your
Ye-
presence into those realities.
That's true. Yes.
So it's kind of a joint
Yes.
thing.
It's a
You're
joint
just being,
process.
you're being kindly modest.
Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, it's everybody's process because some people will get this work done and they never buy it that they're really changed and they never act like they're changing. Because one thing about consciousness is you can release all of this work. And when you start to step into this new space of awareness or relaxation, then you have to figure out, well, how am I going to start talking differently and looking at the world differently and choosing different activities that are more, matching my new self.
Yeah, I think what you're speaking about there is changing the lens of perception. It's like our perception and how we view life is through a specific lens, which includes all of our past experiences and even our ancestral line of things we've inherited that we may not even be consciously aware of. But it's coloring how we interact and interface with the world and with people around us. And when we start to truly heal the traumas in a somatic way through the body, then that lens is cleared, is changed, it's different, it's evolved. And whenever that lens is evolved, we see things differently and we naturally show up differently. We naturally react or respond differently to situations and interactions whenever those traumas have cleared from our systems.
So our old traumas make us trigger into the same type of reactions. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is absolutely part of it. That we respond in a programmed way to the world around us without even realizing that we're living out the same situation over and over and over and over again with different people.
So that's part of our mission. Our mission isn't only to just work with the body, it's to help people to see these patterns that have been going on for such a long time that they might not even realize that they have these patterns that keep coming from parent to child, parent to child, and then they're just repeating these patterns and living the same way. And there's these things stuck in the body, and it's presenting itself in the body and the nervous system as a disharmony because it's not in alignment with what is true, what you're supposed to be doing in this life. So it's presenting itself in the body as something that's out of alignment. So we're working with the body and the person and their mind to help them to clear what's going on in the body and also make a new decision for themselves, make a new decision of, okay, I see this now, I see this pattern, and I'm going to choose something else because I'm a sovereign being.
So it's like changing the way, our brain makes the final decision because it's cognitively says, okay, I'm not going to ride the motorcycle anymore because it makes my body nervous system a wreck. That's a cognitive decision. However, what you're saying is that the nervous system helps make that cognitive decision.
Well, there's many different pathways that we can go about it. Like sometimes we're doing the work, and sometimes traumas, depending on what it is, can be cleared just with working with the body. Sometimes things happen unconsciously to the client. However, with my clients, a lot of the bigger things, it has to be done together with the body and the person using their conscious will to create something else.
Yeah.
So there's many pathways or many ways to do it. As you know, you've done so much work yourself to reprogram.
It does, and I think it becomes a bold decision to do that. Though people who know this work and help other people get there are a part of that process, but ultimately we all have to decide. And we've kind of danced around this topic, and I'll just bring it up. It seems like you step out of the matrix of how everybody else is thinking if you step out of your own trauma. Like, you're not thinking like everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you do a session, or both of you do sessions because you both do this body work, what are some of the things that you do in just like, where do you start?
For me, I start by connecting my own nervous system with the field, with the field of consciousness, with the field of creation. And I'm asking this infinite intelligence to bring through my nervous system what is needed for the client. So I'm connecting with the client's nervous system and being a channel or a bridge to bring through what it is that they need. And at the same time, I am assessing their nervous system and communicating with it. I'm asking, where are you? What's your circuitry? And I'm receiving the feedback of, oh, there's a lot of fear here. And then working with the body to release a lot of oxytocin so that the body feels safe to release the traumas that are stuck, that are causing the fear pattern to keep looping. And that's just an example of how a session can start.
So I want to ask you a question about that.
Okay.
And that when you say that you begin the session by opening up to basically a bigger consciousness, so it goes beyond your mind, your body, and opening to the space within the room, maybe the space of something bigger than that?
Yes, exactly. So the healing is not coming from me, or it's not coming from my mind, or what I think needs to happen with the person. It's coming from beyond me. I'm just being the channel. I'm just being the open space that the information can flow through that the person needs.
And at the same time, you're using triple vagal method, which is a method that you've read in books and studied with teachers and that type of stuff. So it's a marriage of
it's
two different things.
Yes, it's a somatic healing method where I'm going to specific areas strategically where certain traumas are stored in the body. And communicating with the body and asking the body what it needs, and then bringing through the vibrations that the body needs.
What's it like to be in that space of because it sounds like you make a decision and an invitation to expand consciousness much bigger, and you make a decision and a request to be in the expansion of that person's body, which is an infinite body, just like yours. How does that feel when that happens?
It feels like a psychedelic drug.
Yes.
It's like opening up the quantum field, and it creates a whole different space. It's like being in another dimension.
Yeah.
And holding that space and being there for whatever happens. The person can go into big emotional releases, or they can cry or throw up, or anything that needs to happen for that trauma to leave their system.
Wow.
Or they can just fall asleep, and their conscious mind leaves the situation, and their body just allows the reprogramming to happen.
That's beautifully explained. I keep thinking of somebody like St. Francis of Assisi, for example, who was requesting like the spirit of nature, the spirit of also God beyond nature, and also intertwined with nature, all coming into his body, and then laying his hands on somebody else.
Yes. Yeah, that's a huge part. A huge part of the healing process is going beyond my own mind, as Whitney was saying, and letting something bigger take place. If my ego was involved in this healing, it wouldn't really happen the same way. And yeah, there's something really special about TVM sessions. Of course, we've studied so many different modalities, and they all have an influence in the work that we're doing. However, there is this period of feeling like I'm on some sort of psychedelic trip afterwards, that I have to come back down to reality. And it's because, well, I think it's beyond complete understanding. And at the same time, I think it's because we have in that time access to something so big, which is, consciousness, God consciousness or something, and we're bringing that into the space with the client.
And it's huge.
Yeah.
When you're in that place, do you feel traumas in your body? I mean, yes, you're working on traumas, but maybe the traumas that were from your particular childhood or stresses that you're maybe dealing with in present day, did they seem to have a different perspective? You understanding?
I see what you're saying, and I would say in a healing session, okay, yes, in those places, I do see everything differently. It's like there's a new part of me that, or not a new, but a part of me that comes up that could handle anything. Like it's like I'm there. And at the same time, all my old stuff or whatever I'm dealing with, it's not really a part of this session. It's just focused on the person in front of me. And at the same time, what it reminds me of what you're saying is something that we talk about called neuro mirroring, which is something that happens in a healing session, which is we're tuned into this greater consciousness, so there is psychic abilities that get turned on. And for instance, when I'm working, like when I was working on you or working on different people, I'm tuning into the nervous system, seeing where they're at. And then I'm also, a big part of the work is working with fascia. So I'm able to start seeing where there's disharmonies in the body through having a 3D view of the connective tissue that's holding the whole body together, which is how the nervous system presents certain traumas in this tissue being out of alignment.
So a lot of people don't know what fascia is. So let's explain what fascia does, and how it holds trauma.
Yeah, so fascia is fascia is this webbing, a webbing that's throughout the whole body. It's an organ now, and at the same time, it's new in terms of scientific discovery because it's so subtle that they weren't able to really study it. Now they're able to study it with live dissections. And it's like a webbing that's holding the whole body together. So you can imagine this giant mycelial network going through the whole body. And there's different layers of the fascia. There's like deep layers, external layers. Deep layers of the fascia is usually where you're holding like childhood traumas, things like that. And your nerves run through the fascia. So when your nervous system is holding on to different patterns to protect you or your survival strategies, they'll present in different ways in the body, but your nervous system isn't going to be able to show that really. The reason we're able to sense it and the reason it shows is because of the fascia, because the nerves run through the fascia, and then like a hardening will present itself in that area.
And the fascia is just like right under the skin in general, and it's connected with the nervous system
Right.
very much. I was
So
talking
it's
to
right under the skin, but it's also running just throughout the whole body, everywhere. So you could just
so the fascia and the vagal nerve are really crucial parts when you want to get back into this place.
yes.
We're just about midpoint in the show, and I wanted to let everybody know that you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious, and we are with Jake Goldas and Whitney Colm. And oh gosh, I haven't even put down the banner yet, but I wanted to tell you their website and all of this good stuff. I had to read this. You can contact them through www.tvmaustin.com, but also at Dr. Whitney Colm at gmail.com, because Whitney is a chiropractor, but it's found that this work is more meaningful.
It's just the evolution of my practice.
Okay,
Yeah.
good answer. And also you can get in touch with Jake at info@innerspaceheal.com. They're both in Austin, Texas. They travel, They do workshops, they teach, and also they do a lot of private work um, with all of this there. Uh, you are also on Becoming Quantum Conscious. My name is Bart Sharp, and this is the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And you can find us on Roku, X, Facebook, YouTube, and the uprntalkradio.com site. Every time I say X, there's always this I can't think of the next word, X, and then everything goes blank. That must be me. Uh, just it's just so weird. Uh, yeah, it's all good. So here we are with these two beautiful people, and as we work on people, they get calmer, we get calmer, and what these techniques do is they change your life to wherever you're going to get calmer. One of my favorite authors is Joseph Chilton Pierce, who wrote The Heart-Mind Matrix. And he really talks about children that they're dominant in their parasympathetic nervous system. And that's what makes children happy and playful and creative, that they're totally in the parasympathetic. When they're told no or something negative or strong or violent or whatever that is, they jump out of the parasympathetic and they go into sympathetic. And at that time, their fight and flight, or their primal brain, which is in the back, gets activated. And they start recording and processing through a negative or more like fight and flight method. They get stimulated by anger. And then if they stay in their childhood parasympathetic mode, they're developing their frontal lobe brain. And this is a huge, to me, when I heard this information, God bless Joseph Chilton Pierce, a great para-immunologist, I believe is what he's called, out of Harvard. But Joseph Chilton gave us a great information that we can start returning back to that parasympathetic and the vagal and the higher functionings of the brain by calming this body down. And so, maybe we ought to start with just what was it like for y'all before you started doing this type of work? And what have you seen in other people?
Yeah, before I started doing this type of work, I was, I thought I was living a good life, but there was so much numbing, so much numbing, so much numbing that I didn't even realize. So much because everybody around me is also doing it, or at least to a certain extent, people around me are doing it. So I'm just like, okay, this is normal, just to have fun and then go into these numb places, but that's not real life, and it's so taxing on your body. Like having all these traumas in the nervous system and disharmonies, it's part of the reason, there's so much chronic disease. Of course, there's all the toxicity, but that's just one aspect. The rest of it is all the trauma that we're carrying is contributing to so much energy depletion, and then all this sickness, and then the numbing to try to get yourself out of the sickness. So it's just this cycle of disaster. And once I start getting out of that, it's really liberating. It's freedom. I'm so grateful and happy to, for years I've had these visions of wanting to do big things, bring my purpose into physical reality. And because of this work that I've been doing, I'm in a place where I see that happening. I see myself doing the things that I really want to do, not just stuck in this cycle of sick, disaster, then numbing, then back over again.
How does it feel about love? I mean, you haven't mentioned that word, but is your love bigger?
My love is, it's, I wouldn't even say it's bigger, it's more consistent. Because I had a lot of places of love before, but then there's all these survival strategies. There would be love and then a survival strategy of bringing me back in. So I would be able to love for a little bit, then a survival strategy, I would come back. But without these survival strategies, I'm able to stay in love with life and the people around me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a pretty significant experience with my first TVM session that I received and then how I discovered TVM. I was in Guatemala at a retreat center, and I met a TVM practitioner who was facilitating the retreat, and I ended up negotiating doing a trade with her so I could experience TVM. And a few days after the retreat, she came over to my house and gave me a session. And the first thing that I noticed immediately after the session was my child came. I have a young daughter, and she came running in, and she was having this big emotional explosion. She was really angry. And I noticed in myself that there wasn't resistance to her emotion. Whereas before that, I had a lot of resistance and a lot of irritation and wanting her to be different in her emotional expression. But I noticed that after that first TVM session, that I could really just meet her and be with her in with with unconditional love and where she was.
Hmm. And when she says TV, she's just because some people have tuned in late. It would be triple vagal method,
Yes.
uh, and those we love the most usually open up our defenses the most, and if we're unaware of our defenses, we often react in control or anger or different things.
Yes.
Those systems weren't working that day.
Yes, and that was just a huge, significant change in my own body that I felt relaxed with the same stimulus that I had been having multiple times a day, every day for a very long time. The same thing happened, but I was different in response to it.
Mm. And of course, this show is premiering the day before Thanksgiving, which in America, this is our family holiday in general. Uh, Different countries celebrate different forms of Thanksgiving. So, you know, when you are approaching these people that you've done your old patterns with, that you've set your old patterns with, um, can you give anybody advice right now about how to approach that from what you've learned?
How to approach family where there's TVM that you can start doing with yourself, which would be a lot to teach right now. There's different vagal exercises you could do to strengthen your nervous system so you're able to handle those things that come up. And there's a lot more that I could go into it right now. I'm not sure which avenue to go into right now. Whitney, do you have something to offer in terms of
I could
family?
I could yeah, I could teach a very simple exercise to regulate the nervous system instantly to switch on the parasympathetic circuitry.
Okay.
Mm.
If there's an anxiety moving towards being with family or a trigger that comes up with people in your life, there's a very simple exercise you can do. It takes about 60 seconds, and what you do is just go and be by yourself for a moment. Take a couple of deep breaths and just really like let yourself slow down, and then interlace your fingers together like this. Put them in the under the back of your occiput, which is the back of your skull, and lay down flat with your hands like that, and then start by looking straight at the ceiling, straight with your eyes straight, and then keep your head right where it is and turn only your eyes all the way to the right. And then wait a few seconds. It'll take about 30 seconds. And you'll feel a physiological response, a relaxation, sometimes a big sigh or a yawn. And then after that happens, bring your eyes back to the center and then take them all the way over to the left and wait until you feel that same physiological relaxation or sigh or yawn on the left side. And that is it. That's instantly how you reset your nervous system and take it into the parasympathetic circuit.
And also, if you are thinking after Thanksgiving, it's like that, and you have the thoughts such as, thank God I survived again, or something like that, you might take that to the next step and go, I think I'm going to start doing some body work therapy. And maybe triple vagal method is right for me. I see this, whether you're working cranial sacral or triple vagal method or other methods that are very physical, and they physically interact with the nervous system. They're great to do with types of therapy. If you're doing a cognitive therapy with a licensed therapist, you might ask them, wow, can you recommend someone that I can do the body work with at the same time I'm doing this therapy? And what will happen is that your therapeutic approach will go likely 3 times faster because you're hitting it at both avenues. And it's like once the body's calm and you learn these tools, would you agree you're kind of forever changed?
Yes.
I want to offer another exercise just when you're with family, which is in a way, a nervous system exercise, also an energetic exercise, which is something that is called keeping your center or not giving your center away, which is everybody has an energetic center, which in the body, it's right under the belly button. In Qigong, they call it the Dantian, but this is a little different. It's just having the energetic center in this area. And what happens in daily life is that, especially in modern culture, we have this, or people have a tendency to constantly be giving their center away. So let's say like they have this, like pretty person walking by, they're giving their center away to that person instead of holding their center in themselves. Your father says something that's hits a belief of yours, and all of a sudden you're giving your center away to that person. So a practice that we teach and that we practice ourselves is to keep our center. So we're not giving it away to other people. So it's tuning into this energetic center and practicing being around other people and keeping that center in your body. So people will be saying different things. You'll start noticing it coming out. Nope. Bringing it back in. And then you could respond from a different place.
That's wonderful. When we learn more of these tools, we're learning not only to be centered and embodied into a calmer place in ourselves, but also an expanded place in ourselves. When we're really angry or we're scared or we're living in some sort of fear, it's almost like the possibilities of all of these things that we could be thinking and choosing and imagining get narrowed down to just a few things, because that's what trauma does. And we see this all over the world, and all the fears that we're facing and we go into what, oh, there's just such limited options right now because we are thinking from trauma point. We're thinking in the future about our fears that have been created in the past.
That's not in reality because we're here in the now. So I want to offer one more thing, which is you can contact myself or Whitney because we also do work online via Zoom, and it's with held emotions. And we're talking about family, and a big thing about family is it brings up these big feelings sometimes with anger or fear or sadness, and it's things from way, way, way in the past that we haven't thought about in years, but we're around these people and they come up. And that's what we have experience with as well with beyond, and we bring this into our practice with TVM, but it's helping people to navigate these big feelings of anger, fear, or sadness that sometimes a big thing in our culture is these feelings are bad, so they're repressed, but we have a way of helping people to navigate them so we can get the valuable information that they have to share, and then, which is usually some sort of decisions that are made in the past, and then helping someone to navigate changing those decisions into something that works better for the now.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. I hadn't realized you did Zoom, but you can talk and work, do sessions all around the world now.
Yeah. For certain things, like the deepest work with TVM is body to body, but for helping people navigate these big things, yeah, we could do like big feelings. We could do that on Zoom.
Because the more you work on bodies, whether you're touching them or from distance, you start to, perceive bodies in a different way. As an energy worker or as a
Right.
TVM practitioner, we develop skill sets.
Yeah.
It's really funny. 20 years ago, people going, oh, I can't look over the internet. It's too confusing for my awareness. And now everybody's going, yeah, internet, no problem. We just go all over the place, all over the world, and be aware of any place at any time. And so if they can get in touch with your traumas from that type of distance, they can also help you unravel them. Which is, I think, is one of the really cool things, because this show, the title of the show is Healing the World Traumas. And so when we become untraumatized, or even one person is untraumatized, they begin to affect other people around them.
Exactly.
Yes. Every trauma that we clear in ourselves, in our own fields, also clears it backwards and forwards in our own lineages.
Yep.
Clearing ancestral traumas and clearing our future children or current children or future generations from experiencing that same type of trauma. And it also changes the vibrational signature in the collective as well, because we are all connected.
Yeah, because I think you become a bigger energetic being when you become centered in your own nervous system and you're functioning from a bigger state of love, and it affects everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any changes you've seen in your personal life since you've stepped into this type of reality?
I mean, I was just thinking about it a second ago, how grateful I am to be here on this podcast. I mean, just with all the traumas that I've had before, like doing something like this, back in the day would have seemed like such a big deal with all this fear, all this responsibility for teaching and healing and offering that. And now I'm here. I'm here doing this. It's cool. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, they just came over to my house and said, we talked a little bit in Jake's house. I'm ready to go. And it's like, all right, well, I guess we don't need to talk about it anymore. We're just going to do the show. I'm becoming quantum conscious. And yeah, so we're coming to the last 5 minutes of the show. So I want to tell everybody that you are with Jake Goldas and Whitney Colm. And you can catch their websites at www.tvmaustin.com. That would be transvagal method, if in case you're wondering. And at Dr. That'd be Dr. Whitney Colm at gmail.com or info at innerspaceheal.com if you want to get email addresses and stuff from these two to start learning more from them. My name is Bart Sharp, and you're on Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 105.3 out of New Orleans, Louisiana, on Roku, X, Facebook, YouTube, and the UPRN Talk Radio site. And we wish everybody happy family times if you're celebrating Thanksgiving. If not, we just wish you a wonderful and happy time. And next week we're going to have Karina Chrysler giving astrological predictions, and she is an Egyptian astrologer of magnitude. We had her husband on, Hakeem Arwan, just about 4 months ago, talking about my favorite topic these days is evolving into the 360 sensory system awarenesses. In other words, we don't have 5 sensory systems. The chematologists, because I just love to talk about this, that's why I'm bringing it up. Chematologists say we have 360 sensory systems awarenesses, which when you do the triple vagal method and you calm down your nervous system, those things are going to be popping up, folks.
Yep.
Because your nervous system is no longer working against you, it's working with you.
And the beautiful thing about the times that we're in is that our nervous systems, even though there's been all this toxicity and trauma that's been bogging us down, when we're doing this healing, we're not going back to the place we were before. Our nervous systems are evolving. So we're actually going into these new, like we have these circuitries that we talked about, but we're discovering, our team is discovering that there's new circuitry starting to get activated, which is like these highly developed sympathetic states that aren't like a toxic sympathetic, but like more like ecstatic. Do you have more on that, Whitney?
Yeah, it's like functioning at a higher level, like being able to go fast, but not from a state of survival, from a state of mastery.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what's coming up next for human beings in our evolution.
Yes.
That we really are all over the world and beyond the universe. And we are breaking time and space.
Yes.
And our consciousness much faster than the rocket ships.
Yeah.
So we have about 2 more minutes. Is there a message you'd like to give everybody as a enlightened message to the world?
Keep taking the steps towards your own aliveness.
Yeah.
Keep waking up, keep asking questions of what's my intention, why am I doing what I'm doing, and keep expanding your own awareness
Yes.
into more aliveness and presence.
Yes. Consciousness will present the next steps if you're ready for them. Just all you have to do is say yes.
That is wise information. Thank you so much, Jake and Whitney, for being on the show. And hope to see everybody next week on Becoming Quantum Conscious. And we'll see you later.
Goodbye.
Thank you.